This is attempt number 4 at recording this little video clip. A 30-minute video clip is giving me so many problems. Don't know what the issue is. Anywho, the purpose of the video is to give you an overview of my solar system setup. Yes, I'm in my driveway, so I apologize for the cars going by. So again, this is an overview of my solar setup. And then after I cover over all the solar stuff, I will have a second half of the video, which will go into the actual charging setup for my RC helicopter and my camping, whatever. So I have a full-fledged solar setup in this car. The vehicle that I have it in is a 2008 Nissan Rogue. It's been giving me a crap load of problems, but that's neither here nor there. Anywho, let's get on with the production of the solar system, and then from there we will work on the RC charging setup. So without any further ado, let's get started. First, as you see on top of the car, I have strapped down a 100 watt 17 volt 6 amp solar panel. This is my primary source of collection of power. I only have one panel. If I was to make any major upgrades to the system, the solar panel would be one of the things I would upgrade. I would add a second panel for my setup. It would just be a lot more ideal for me to have two, a lot more efficient. And I would run them in parallel versus series because I want to keep it a 12 volt system. So two 12 volt or 17 volt panels in parallel would give me quite a few watt hours back into the battery. So that's kind of what I'm shooting for. Higher amps, same voltage. As we come down, you'll see in the back the black cord that goes across the back of the car. It comes down. I have it ran right here. It then comes down, and I just run it to inside the hatch area of the car. This is probably the most ideal situation for me without having to drill holes or having to run cables out of windows, things of that nature. So I can just run it right down the side into the hatch, and I can keep it all hooked up 24/7, 365. I don't have to worry about the unplugging and plugging of it or anything like that. Underneath, first thing you're going to see is my hammock, so let's move that out of the way. So now what you're seeing is the power inverter. This is a 750 watt power inverter, which converts the 12 volt to 110. And like I said, it goes up to 750 watts. So this is nothing more than just a basic power supply or power source for 110. It's not going to give you anything. You're not going to be able to do anything substantial with it, like boil water or anything like that, or run a heater, or anything that requires a heating element. You're not going to be able to operate that kind of stuff. This is for like charging laptops, cell phones, watches, providing light inside the tent if you need light, when you go camping. Just real basic electricity needs. Swing over here, and you have the two 6 volt 227 amp hour batteries. They are wired in series to give me the 12 volts that I need. If you want to know what the watt hours is on this, you need to do the math. 227 amp hours at 12 volts. That should give you the amp hours or the watt hours, or give you enough information to figure out watt hours. Got a trash bag here from when I went camping last weekend, or Father's Day weekend, I should say. And then over here is the charge controller. And this is what actually controls the entire system. It's going to monitor the lead acid batteries that I have. it will monitor the power coming out of the solar panel, and it will shut down the charge to the batteries when the batteries are full. And it's at a voltage, that's how it determines if it's full or not. It's based on voltage. Right here on the corner of the screen, there's a thermometer which gives you the ambient temperature of your charge controller. So the two black wires that come down from your solar panel are going to tie into your charge controller at this point right here. So this is your input for power. This is your output for power, which will go to your batteries. So the charge controller then sends the power from the solar panel into your battery bank. I use speaker wire. You can use anything that can handle up to 27 amps. The system is not putting out 27 amps, but the batteries I have can handle that much. So you're better to gauge this off of what your batteries can handle, not what the charge controller can handle. And this charge controller can only handle up to 24 volt anyway, so I forgot what the amp output is, but it's not a whole lot. And then once your batteries are topped off, and if your solar panels continue to produce energy, you need to dissipate that energy. So you have a constant load bank on here where anything that can take up to 17 volts can be plugged into here. And you can use something like a car headlight. You can use a fan, like a computer fan, just anything that'll burn off the energy efficiently instead of having the controller dissipate that energy. Then on the charge controller, I have two USB ports and I have two 12-volt barrel connectors. Again, this is just for some minor stuff, nothing fancy. I believe these are like 1 amp or 1.5 amp USB ports. You see this blue USB cable coming out of it. It's going to my run cam because the battery for the run cam is puffed and it's shot. So I'm running it on a constant power source. And that's essentially it for the solar system. Keep in mind that you are going to be limited to the quality of your sun and the time of the year. So to give you an idea, the solar panel is on top of my car. It's not faced or placed in a ideal location, so I can unratchet it from the roof of the car. I have a framework made out of wood that I can use to angle the panel, and I can go up to about 25 feet from my car with that panel to get ideal sunlight. And then I can tell if it's ideal or not by looking at the charge controller over here again, which in the top left corner, which you can't see, it will tell me what my amp input is from the panels, or how many amps I'm getting from the panel. The higher that number goes, the more efficient it's going to be in collecting energy. And on a side note, to close out the solar side, let's go back up to this. So if I'm not mistaken, this particular panel is a monocrystalline panel, or monocrystalline, and there's a polycrystalline panel. The poly being more efficient than the mono, and then the mono is more efficient than thin film, which is what you're going to get at like Harbor Freight with that 45 volt or 45 amp or whatever that small system is that they have. It's a 45 watt panel that they have up at Harbor Freight. It's a complete system, but it's the least efficient out of all the solar panels. Like I said, this is the monocrystalline, and you can tell by how the surface is patterned out in the coloring of the panel. Like I said, if you go with poly, you're going to get something that's more efficient than a mono, but the differences are minuscule. And for my setup, a mono is just. So with that, that's basically my solar system in a nutshell. Just to wrap it up, I don't know what else to talk about as far as the solar system goes. I don't have any hard data as far as how much my system can handle. I know that for the hobby, it suits just fine. And I know that when I go camping with my kids, for what little electricity needs we have, it's just fine. it suits what I need. If you want to try and get a better idea, just crunch the numbers. Again, it's a 227 amp hour battery. There's 2 of them. They're 6 volt, ran in series for 12 volt. And that's basically the system. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below, or come over to RC Help and ask me over there. That's primarily where I have all the information documented for this particular project. And I'm going to disclaimer this with, if you don't know what you're doing with electricity, don't even try and take on a project like this. You need to have some knowledge about electricity. Not that it's all that big, or it's not that it'll kill you. It can definitely seriously hurt you if you don't know what you're doing. The last thing you need to do is have a lead acid battery blow up on you, and then you get all that acid on you. Yeah, it can be very ugly. So if you don't know what you're doing and you're scared about it, don't try and take on a project like this. Although on the flip side, this isn't a very difficult project. It's just understanding series versus parallel and what wires go to where and keeping everything organized. So with that, I'm going to close out and have a great